Back in the 1980s, British lorry drivers ruled the road. No digital records, no smoke bans, no one checking how many hours you had been behind the wheel. What was totally normal back then would land a driver in serious legal trouble today. Fines, bans, even criminal villains. They were ordinary men doing an ordinary job. So what exactly were they doing? Here are 15 everyday habits from 1980s lorry drivers that are now completely illegal. Number 15. Running paper logbooks instead of a tachograph. Before tachographs became law, British lorry drivers recorded their hours in a paper logbook. Start time, stops, when they parked up. Simple and very easy to fake. The UK actually fought the European community on tachographs for years. The government argued in the European court that British drivers were already well managed under the logbook system. The court disagreed. The EU made tachographs fully compulsory from 1986. Before that, paper was all there was. Today, a driver caught without a working tachograph faces on-the-spot fines and a prohibition notice. Smart tachographs now transmit data directly to enforcement agencies without the driver even knowing they are being checked. That paper logbook would not survive 5 minutes at a modern roadside stop. And number 14. Driving insane Ha's without proper rest. In the 1980s, just keep going was baked into lorry culture. Drivers pushed through the night. They drove through fatigue. Getting the load delivered on time was the whole job. Parliament heard arguments in 1979 that some drivers were running close to 90 hours a week with no real limit on actual driving time. Today the rules are tight. HGV drivers cannot drive more than 9 hours in a single day, extendable to 10 hours twice a week. Over any 2-week period, the absolute limit is 90 hours. After 4.5 hours of continuous driving, a mandatory 45-minute break must be taken. Breach these limits and fines reach up to £1,500 per offence, with authorities able to check 28 days of data in one roadside stop. Number 13. Smoking in the cab all day long. The lorry cab in the 1980s smelled like an ashtray. Cigarettes from start to finish. Nobody said a word. That ended on 1st July 2007 in England, when the Health Act 2006 came into force, banning smoking in any vehicle used by more than one person for work. The rule covers HGVs, buses and taxis. It does not matter whether the other person is in the cab at the same time. If that lorry is shared between 2 drivers, it is legally a smoke-free workplace. Employers who fail to enforce the ban face fines of up to £2,500. Every covered vehicle must also display a no smoking sign of at least 70 millimeters in diameter. Forget the sign and that alone is a £200 fine. Number 12. Driving without a seatbelt. Many lorry drivers in the 1980s simply did not bother with a seatbelt. Some cabs did not even have one fitted. The thinking was that in a crash you wanted to be thrown clear. Here is the part that surprises most people. Seatbelts became compulsory for car drivers in January 1983. But seatbelts were not even required to be fitted in HGV cabs until 2001. That is 18 years later. So for most of the 1980s, a lorry driver had no belt to wear even if they wanted one. Today, every HGV driver must wear a seatbelt where one is fitted. The on-the-spot fine is £100, rising to £500 in court. ROSPA data shows seatbelts cut the risk of a fatal injury in a crash by around 50%. Number 11. Running overload trucks. In the 1980s, squeezing more weight onto the trailer was common. Operators wanted more goods moved in fewer trips. Weighbridges existed, but checking was nowhere near as consistent as it is today. Today, the maximum gross weight for a standard 6-axle Arctic in the UK is 44 tonnes. Each overloaded axle is a separate offence. A 3-axle lorry found overweight on 2 axles, and the gross weight has just committed 3 separate offences in one stop. An estimated £50 million a year is spent on UK road repairs caused directly by overloaded goods vehicles. FASCed penalties run from £100 to £300 per offence. Magistrates can go much higher. Operators can also lose their licence entirely. Number 10. Using the CB radio as a speed trap warning system. CB radio exploded in Britain in the early 1980s. The Home Secretary legalised it on 2nd November 1981 on FM frequency 27 MHz. Lorry drivers had been using illegal American imported sets for years before that. The moment it went legal, Channel 19 lit up Drivers gave themselves handles and spent miles warning each other about police speed checks and roadblocks. Bears meant police. A Kojak with a Kodak meant a speed camera. Wall-to-wall bears meant serious police presence ahead. Today, using any handheld device in a way that causes distraction while driving carries a fine. For lorry and bus drivers, the maximum court fine for a handheld device offence is £2,500. Using any device to coordinate avoidance of law enforcement opens the door to further charges on top of that. Number 9. No professional driving qualification. If you held a heavy goods vehicle licence, that was it. You passed your test and you drove. No requirement to prove you understood current safety law, environmental rules, or updated road regulations. A driver could work professionally for decades without ever sitting another exam. That changed on 10th September 2009 when the Driver Certificate of Professional Competence became mandatory for all LGV drivers in the UK. Every professional lorry driver must carry a valid DQC card at all times while driving commercially. To keep it, drivers must complete 35 hours of training every 5 years. Drive commercially without a valid card today, and the fine is up to £1,000. The qualification covers road safety law, fuel-efficient driving, health regulations, and commercial obligations that simply did not exist in 1980s Britain. Number 8. Sleeping anywhere you felt like it. In the 1980s, when a driver ran out of energy, they pulled over. Lay-by, field entrance, motorway hard shoulder. Anywhere flat was good enough. You wound down the seat and you slept. Nobody checked where you were parked. Today, drivers can take their daily rest in the cab only if the vehicle is parked somewhere with access to toilets, showers, and food. A lay-by alone does not count. From November 2017, the DVSA began fining drivers up to £300 for taking their full weekly rest break in a lorry parked in an unsuitable location. In France, the same offence carries a fine of up to £26,000. In Germany, drivers are charged £54 for every hour they fall short of proper rest conditions. The UK fine is considered soft by European standards, but enforcement is growing. Number 7. Doing roadside repairs with zero safety gear, breaking down in the 1980s, meant getting under the lorry, on the hard shoulder, on the verge. Wherever you stopped, a driver with a toolbox could sort a lot of things himself. High visibility gear was not even part of the conversation. Today, stopping on a motorway or dual carriageway without proper safety measures is a serious offence. Hazard lights on, warning devices placed correctly, high visibility clothing worn. The Health and Safety at Work Act and the Provision and Use of Work Equipment regulations both apply at the roadside. Attempting repairs on a live road without proper procedure can result in prohibition notices, fines, and prosecution if other road users are endangered. Number 6. Running loosely roped or unsecured loads. Loads flatbed lorries in the 1980s were everywhere. Loads got roped down with whatever was in the back of the cab. Some loads shifted, some fell off. It was an accepted risk. The Road Traffic Act 1991 created a specific offence for loads that are not properly secured. Critically, the load does not even have to fall off for the offence to apply. The existence of a risk is enough. For goods vehicles today, an unsecured load conviction means an unlimited fine, 3 penalty points, and mandatory disqualification if the same offence is repeated within 3 years. Number 5. A couple of pints before getting back on the road. The culture around alcohol and lorry driving in the 1980s was completely different. 2 pints at the Transport Cafe before the afternoon run was not seen as a disaster by many people in the industry. The UK drink drive limit of 80 milligrams of alcohol per 100 millilitres of blood has been on the books since 1967. Breathalyzers arrived the same year, but enforcement was inconsistent and the attitude across the trucking world was casual. Today, a lorry driver found over the limit faces a minimum 12-month ban, an unlimited fine, and up to 6 months in prison. DVSA run targeted HGV alcohol checks. The social acceptance of drinking before driving 44 tonnes down a motorway is simply gone. Number 4. Carrying dangerous goods with no training or paperwork. In the 1980s, hazardous materials moved on UK roads without the driver training and documentation standards that exist today. A driver might be handed a load of chemicals or flammable goods and told to get from A to B with little more than directions. The ADR agreement on the international transport of dangerous goods came into force in Europe in 1968. The UK adopted it after joining the EEC in 1973, but driver training standards were inconsistent for years after. Today, any driver carrying dangerous goods above threshold quantities must hold a valid ADR certificate, carry full documentation, display correct hazard warning panels, and follow strict rules on segregation and emergency procedures. ADR certificates expire every 5 years. Failure to comply carries criminal charges and loss of the operator's license.
Number 3. No maintenance records or vehicle checks.
In the 1980s, some hauliers took maintenance seriously, others did not. A driver might flag a fault and be told to crack on regardless. Keeping proper written records was not always enforced, especially among smaller operators. Today, every operator holding a goods vehicle operator's license must demonstrate a documented system of regular vehicle maintenance. The DVSA carries out compliance checks and roadside examinations. A vehicle found to be in a dangerous condition gets a prohibition notice on the spot and cannot move until repaired. Drivers who knowingly take an unsafe vehicle onto the road risk prosecution, penalty points, and disqualification. Operators who repeatedly fail standards face full revocation of their license, which ends the business.
Number 2. Ignoring weight limits on bridges and side roads.
In the 1980s, weight limit signs on bridges and rural roads were not always treated seriously. If the bridge looked solid, some drivers crossed it. Local knowledge replaced legal compliance, and this caused real damage to infrastructure across the country. Today, weight restriction signs are circular with a red border and carry the force of law. DVSA and local authorities actively patrol problem routes. Vehicles found on restricted roads or crossing weight-restricted bridges face prosecution, civil liability for repair costs, and in serious cases, substantial damages claims. National infrastructure absorbs roughly £50 million a year in road damage from overloaded vehicles alone, not counting bridge strikes and weight-restricted road damage.
Number 1. No operator license culture or compliance system.
In the 1980s, deregulation of road haulage brought more competition but also looser practices. Some operators ran lorries with minimal oversight. Drivers did not always know whether their employer had a valid license. Compliance was a word that barely existed on the road. Today, the operator's license system is the entire foundation of UK haulage. Any company operating goods vehicles over 3.5 tonnes without a valid license faces an unlimited fine, and the DVSA has the power to impound and even crush their vehicles. Drivers who knowingly work for an unlicensed operator also face prosecution. The traffic commissioners can revoke licenses, ban individuals permanently, and impose conditions on entire fleets. The 1980s culture of getting on with it and sorting the paperwork later does not exist anymore. The law made sure of that. 40 years ago, British lorry drivers kept this country moving. Goods on the road, deliveries done, no questions asked. A lot of what they did was not reckless. It was simply normal for the time. Nobody handed them a rule book. Nobody told them it was all about to change. But normal changes. Laws get tighter. Standards go up. The road safety record in Britain today is vastly better than it was in 1980. Fewer fatal crashes, better maintained vehicles, drivers who are tested, trained and tracked. And what once got you a nod from the gaffer would now get you pulled over, fined and banned before lunchtime. Every single habit on this list is proof of just how far the road has come since the 1980s.